Kasamahan, we often reflect about our experiences in the past, affecting how we act in the present so we can better our future. In your platform, you utilize these three concepts of time to tell us what your intentions are as executive director. Where do you see the potential and future of Kasamahan going with you as our executive?
I think that my goal is very much to continue a lot of the initiative.
It does that. It's a lot.
Oh wow. To continue a lot of the initiatives that have been started before me. As you said, we reflect on our past, and I often refer to the people that did serve in this position and other positions I've held before. The things that come most immediately to mind, and the things that I think that Kasamahan has, in full transparency, struggled with a little bit since I've gotten here, at least, and maybe before that too, was first its presence in the community and political sphere, as well as its inclusivity. I think that for a lot of people, Kasamahan is an open space, and it presents itself as an open space, but that there are still ways in which we lack in offering those open arms to everybody. And as feedback we receive, that's things that even I felt, even as a board member, even as someone who's been here for that long. And something that someone taught me was that, like, I feel like I have a very, empathetic, big heart, and that's like to my own horn, but I think I always saw that as a flaw, as something that stopped me from being strong enough of a leader, or strong enough as a leader. But I think that that heart that I have is what can, not in the sense that this space needs me, because I don't think it does. And I think that this space will continue to grow and move forward without me. But I think that the heart that I bring and the love that I bring is something that I hope permeates onto executive board, and by extension onto membership, and by extension onto future generations of membership, with the mindset that this is a space for everybody. We stand in unity and solidarity, and that we don't take that lightly. I think sometimes we say it often, and we sign like suck often, and at times we lose sense of what that really means to stand in unity and solidarity. But my hope is that moving forward, we can further establish Kasamahan as a truly inclusive space, as a truly welcoming space, in every sense of the word. And it's going to take a lot of trial and error to discover what that means and what that looks like. But that is my biggest hope, that everybody who comes here truly does feel welcomed, whatever that looks like for them, and knows that they can come back. And I referenced the community and political pillar also. I mentioned Kasamahan's collective voice in my speech because, as a lot of us have mentioned today, we are the biggest org on campus. We have such a pool, we have such a voice, and I think it's very important that we utilize that. And I am grateful to be piggybacking off of the work of people like Christelle and Francis and Franny, who have really not started the process, but who have really pushed for this increased utilization of the power that Kasamahan holds. And not power in like an authoritative or like scary way, but in the sense of like, there's so many of us, we have so much wisdom, we have so much presence, so we should use that to our advantage. And that's why previously, I think it was for the CAPA position, I asked the question about how do we advocate for other cultural communities, because the struggles of our ancestors are rooted in so many of the same systems and ideals that other cultural communities have gone through. And even if they weren't, it is still a responsibility as a human being to be there for other human beings. And my hope is that because Kasamahan is such a big org, because it has so many resources and so many people, that it can continue to be a resource for other orgs, for other people, and an advocate for other people. I fear somewhere along the way I maybe lost track of the exact question, but I think it's very progressive. I don't imagine any concrete changes or any sudden or like abrupt or big, like from one point to another, if that makes sense. But it's all progressive, it's all gradual, and it has been since I got here, and I've seen that growth. And I hope that I can also, I think most importantly, plant the seeds in whoever comes after me, whoever continues the space, so that they will continue doing the same.
Hi, Grandma. With your past board experience and with your membership in Kasama, what's the most important lesson that you're bringing into your role as supposed executive director?
Okay, new question.
You already answered my other question.
That's something I've been reflecting on a lot. And I think the first answer that always comes to mind is to really just be so present and lead with intention. And that kind of leads back to your actual question, your other question about like, what's your why? I think especially to have been on board for this long, it is easy to feel burnt out. It is easy to lose track of why you came here. It is easy to lose track of why you continue to do it. Sometimes you go through the motions for the sake of doing it because it feels like an obligation. And I think that, I guess I can't speak on behalf of everyone I've been on board with, but I think that's a pretty common sentiment. And it's easy to fall into that trap. It's easy to feel like that when there's so many moving parts and so many things to worry about. But I think something that, especially like my previous like mentors and alumni have really instilled with me is to, like we said in PCN season, and like we've really been talking about today, to really zero in on your intention and what brought you here and what keeps you here. And I put in my platform that you're all what brought me here and you're what keeps me here. And I mean that with so much heart and so much truth, that the reason I'm here is because of all of you. And because I hope that I can help all of you to grow, that I can help all of you to learn, that I can help all of you to experience Kasamahan to its fullest extent, whatever that looks like for you. And so I think just being rooted in that intention and staying true to that and frequently referencing it whenever things maybe start to feel a little like crazy, maybe things get unsure, maybe things start to feel like busy work, I think it's important to really be intentional with everything that I do. Like, not checking in for the sake of just doing my job, but because like I'm here to support you, I want to support you, that's why I'm here. And not just, you know, going through the motions, if that makes sense. And the times where maybe that intention starts to fall through, like, I should ask for help, I should reach out, I should be honest. Because I wouldn't be here right now if I didn't feel like that intention will see me through. And I think it's just important to have that mindset, especially when this is just a big board, there's so many moving parts. So I think just, as you said, and it's okay to not know fully like your why, but I think having that foundation and setting that and coming back to it is really important.
Oh, no, I'll just fix my glasses.
Oh, okay.
As your previous years on board, you've seen the academic and pre-professional career grow with the city's Jared and Francis. You mentioned the past. Who is your past? And from them, what does the academic and pre-professional career and alumni outreach mean to you? How do you see it fostering not only through next year's Daro and the ones to come, but you as well, as our newest home givers to us all? What do you have planned to welcome your past faculty to home?
I think this is a very interesting question because I didn't get to ask this, but when we were doing Daro's Q&A, I was just looking at the title. I was like, why do we talk to alumni? Like, what's the point, really? Like, we have this alumni network and we emphasize it so often, but why? And yeah, I didn't get to ask, sorry, speak, but I think for me, my past, and Kasamahan particularly is of course composed of people who led before me and who guided me, I mentioned people like Christelle and Jalissa, people like Jared and Francis, a lot of people from those years who planted a seed in me that I would not have put there myself. And I might ask you to repeat some parts of the question. It's okay, but I think the importance of reconnecting with this past and maintaining that connection of this past lies in the power of storytelling, as we talked about, like, is it our story and all of that, but also just in, it's like Kasamahan is like, it's not stagnant, for one thing. And I think that we talk about writing a story, and we're all like, each year is like a different chapter. And to know what's happening in this chapter, you have to know what happened in the first one. Because you have no context, then what? You know, and you show up and then it's like, nah. So I think it is so empowering to know what the people before you have done, and where they've been, and what they've experienced, and to carry that with me. And I do carry that with me, and that's something that I try to remain very mindful of. And that, and the fact that, like, even though that they are in the past, like, they're still very much part of the present, because they live on in HFS, they live on in the traditions that we carry on, they live on in PCN and Kate and FG. They are still part of the present despite not being physically here with us. And so I think honoring that, and honoring not just the people in the immediate past, like our alumni, but also like way back then, like everybody who got us to this point, it is also like a form of honoring and appreciating them. What were your other questions?
What does the academic and pre-professional career and alumni outreach mean to you? And how do you see it fostering the programs to come?
Something else that I've been thinking about today, particularly in the realms of like academia and the career world, is that I mentioned earlier, like, especially in America, in a Western system, a lot of these systems are not there to support a Filipino person. And something that I want to explore further in this pillar is what it means to take up space as a Filipino or as a Filipino American in academics, in higher education, in different career fields, because our Filipino-ness can underlie a lot of those things that come with being a student, being in a career. Although we may not often realize it, it may come in the form of microaggressions or something very subtle, but it exists and it's there. And I don't know if that's something that has been touched upon previously, but I was thinking a lot about it today, because I think that to take up space in a university, in higher education, in a career field, as a person of color, or perhaps as something else, whatever you identify as, it takes a lot of strength, it takes a lot of support, and I know that Kasamahan has been actively trying to grow this pillar and how it can be a supportive resource, but my hope is that, like Sydney mentioned, like, we can really take the outreach part of the position and really put it into practice, really network with alumni who have experiences in different fields, who can tell you what it is like to be that person in that field, to be a Filipino in that field, or to identify the ways that they do in that field, and what that looks like, and how to navigate that. Because at the end of the day, like, we are all college students, like, we're here for our education, we're here for our career, and so I think it's important to tap into that and navigate that and offer it as a resource, which, like, even like through something as simple as like the Meet Me at UC4 sessions, I think that I was able to go to a few of them, and I think they're very beneficial to have that area of support as you're going through academics, and to offer a community where it's a prioritized school, also being in community with other people. What was it?
The last one was, sorry.
That's okay.
What do you have planned to welcome our past back into the
Oh, okay. Something that I really loved this year was the Our Cafeteria Ancestor Wall. I was so flabbergasted that it hadn't been done before, to my understanding. But I think like it's interesting because we often like, especially upperclassmen, like we'll often reference alumni like names, and people will be like, "Who is that?" Like, who is that? And so I think like I think this was something that someone did a few years ago, but like they had like some kind of alumni spotlight. I remember something like that. Kaleidoscope, is that what it's called? Yeah, I think bringing that back is exciting. I think that could be a good option because, as I mentioned, like they're still very much a part of our resident, they're still very much a part of our community, and so to be able to more regularly, like not keep tabs, but like just maintain a communication with them the way that you would like a long distance friendship, like being able to offer that space for them to still update us, to still come back, and like I don't see any harm in inviting them back. I'm sure they do. They do come to like meetings, they do come to like events and practices, but very actively inviting them and reaching out in the ways that we can through like whatever alumni communication networks we have. I'm not too well versed on what those are right now, but just actively inviting them to return. Not just saying like, okay, we have a meeting, people can we want, but like, oh, like if you're crap. Okay.
Kasama has built on the foundations of social and while there is no specific season or event for executive responsibilities, a major part of your role is to make How do you envision being a pillar of support not only for your directors and their season heads, but also for your fellow Kasamas and the space as a whole?
I think when I was talking to people about this position, something that occurred to me was that I feel like we often see the ED as like we perceive it, I don't know what it is, but we perceive it as like ultra leader, like overlord, like, you know, like president, you know. But like when I was talking about it to other people, I was like, I really just feel like I just get to be like everyone's personal assistant. I get to be like, hey, like what do you need? And like that is the funnest thing in the world to me. Like I think that is so exciting to be able to just, my whole job is to be there for you. My whole job is to support you. And I find so much hope and so much excitement in that. And I think just to be able to offer myself consistently as like, yeah, like your own little personal assistant, your own little like person to go to when you need that support, whether that is as Ivor or that is as a general member. I think that if there's one thing I hope to leave with membership and with Kasama as a whole before I go, it's that I hope that they find the confidence and the strength in themselves that someone would put in me. And so my biggest hope is that I can support everyone here and everyone in Kasama to realize those goals and to pursue those goals and to pursue their wildest dreams, whatever that looks like for them. But with that in mind, I think something that was very much instilled in me by Christelle Salvador, who is RED 2 years ago, was rest. And I think we often say like rest, sleep, take care of yourselves, eat, but like we all know that like we just kind of go out the window, like we don't take it very seriously, which I'm also guilty of, and I do all the time, despite again people telling me to take that rest. But something that she really emphasized in me, and something that I was kind of talking about earlier, was like it's important to rest with intention, to be very mindful about your rest, and it's not just like sit there for the sake of sitting there, but like really like understand what rest is to you. How do you feel before you rest? How do you feel after you rest? And to be able to come back to the space rejuvenated, not just for yourself as well. They always say that, you know, you can't pour from an empty cup. And so that rest and that rest with intention is so important for not just for membership, but also for yourself. And so I think really doing my best to instill that mindset as well, and that goal of intentional rest is really important to me, and it's something that I'm very much still working on. Like, I may be preaching it, I don't practice it super well, so it's something that I hope to work on alongside each of you. But I think navigating that pursuit of your dreams and your goals and supporting that in whatever way I can, truly, while also reinforcing rest with intention, reinforcing rest as a form of power, as a form of productivity, and just making sure that we can find that balance, which is very hard. But
you give me a library question, so I'll return the favor. You're a big busy person, so I'll word it this way. In your time here at Kasamahan, if you had to pick just one, in your time here at Kasamahan, if you had to pick just one, what would you say is the one core memory you have within the space that you hold on to forever, and why?
oh, that's a hard question. Like a little ball in my inside-out head. Oh, just one. It's really hard for me to pick just one. I think all of the in-betweens and like the little moments and conversations make up the home that Kasamahan has given me. But I would say my first PCN, PCN 49, Upwell, which means to lead in Ilocano. It's something, I think it was a difficult season because it was like our first PCN back in person. And so like none of us like really knew what was happening. And it was like a lot to navigate, a lot to work out, a lot to try and adjust with the circumstances we were given. But the night, there was like, I think it was the last night of like USF run-throughs, and we all got our little sweaters, little white ones that say a bow on them, using them. I just remember bawling my eyes out that night. Like I don't know, like that feeling of like PCN magic that we talk about, that feeling of community that was instilled for those of us who were a part of PCN this year. Like that was when it really came to life to me, and that was when I don't know, where I was like, I mean, I was always like, yeah, like I love it here, I want to be here, I want to serve here, but that one was just so special. And I think I really felt connected with everybody in that space as well. And I have to think of it fondly. I've loved all our other PCNs as well, but that was just a core memory, I would say.
In this space, there are bound to be disagreements, arguments, or even falling outs. These things, within a board space specifically, can be especially stressful. How do you plan to navigate conflicts between board members if they do arise?
I think coming into the space as like a leader, I feared that I wasn't quite strong-minded or assertive enough. And that confrontation, not necessarily that confrontation is the answer, but that anything in that realm was not really a strong suit of mine. And it's something that I think I've learned to develop over the past few years. It's something that I'm grateful I have developed. And I'm still continuing to develop very much into this day. I think that it takes a lot of transparency and honesty and communication for a board to be a board. We have to be honest with each other, and we have to, like, we cannot go, like, talking about things in regard to someone else, but not sharing them with that someone else. We have to be a cohesive unit. We have to be on the same page, which is so much easier said than done, and I acknowledge that fully. But I think, first and foremost, offering myself as an unbiased pillar of support, like we mentioned, which again is also easier said than done. But all of these feelings, all of these experiences are valid, regardless of what brought them on, or regardless of what spurs them. And I think for me to be not a mediator per se, but to offer a space where someone can understand their feelings and verbalize their feelings and move forward from those feelings if needed, before they can approach the next person is really important. My hope is that I can cultivate an environment within our board where everyone feels comfortable coming to me with those kinds of concerns, and where they don't feel like they have to go outside the board, or they don't feel like they have to go to other people on board, but not to the person they're concerned with themselves. And I think maybe there are no like concretely tangible ways for myself to do that, but my hope is really that I'm able to, again, just, I used the word cultivate already, but I'll use it again, to cultivate the kind of space where, and to be the kind of person where it is not intimidating or not scary or daunting for someone to come up to me and tell me that they're having this concern. And I hope that from there we can talk about it and we can understand it and we can plan how to move forward. And if that involves bringing in another person, if it involves a conflict between two or more people, to have all of them be able to go through that same process of understanding and verbalizing and expressing to the fullest capacity, and then being able to move forward from there.
Kind of on the same topic of conflict in the last question, much of my experience as an EP is finding this balance that exists between telling other executive board members or other someone in leadership what to do, but also allowing them the space to do what they think is best. I think a lot of the times, like you mentioned earlier too, right? People view the executive director as this like greatest person, whatever they do and what they say should be the way, right? But in moments where you see a director or someone else not going in the best path, like how will you control that space between you and that person or that director to navigate them to make the best decision?
Yeah, I think I would still answer a little similarly, to the way I had answered Ella's question. I think on my end, like, to me it may seem like not the best path, but I trust that they are well intentioned and that there must be a reason that they see, and for the ways that there must be a reason for the things they're doing that they feel is the best. And so I think it starts with that conversation and that understanding of their actions and their motives and the ways that they see it, and then transitioning into that conversation about, well, okay, like that's how they see it. This is how I see it also. I think that they should know that perspective, and they should hear that perspective. And then finding a compromise and a middle ground between those things. I think, yeah, like I absolutely want to offer the space for directors to grow as leaders and to be independent and to make their own decisions, but I think that it's important to point out when maybe something is going a little awry. Is that a word? Awry? But sorry, I lost my train of thought after that. But yeah, I would say again, just that very open, honest, transparent line of communication and seeking understanding above all else before you decide to move forward. It's like in nursing, like we have a process that we follow. It's called ADPI. It's assessment, and then diagnosis, and then implementation. Assessment, diagnosis, planning, implementation, evaluation. So I think starting with that assessment, starting with that understanding, trying to figure out what are their signs and symptoms, what are they going through, why are they experiencing them, and then moving into like, okay, this is the problem, this is what we can do. Yeah.
Can you make a motion for 5 more minutes?
Second.
Thank you. Any other questions? I have a question that was submitted by someone from membership. It was anonymous, but I'll try my best to word it right. So their question was, considering that there are multiple candidates in this year's elections from the same fan line, if they do win and get the respective position, how will you establish this professional boundary and maintain that between executive board members who are within the same fan lines, including for yourself?
That's a big question. I also don't think it's limited to just fan lines. I think a lot of the people on this board are very closely, or like a lot of the people that are running for this board this year are very closely connected to each other. And I think for a lot of us, that's why we're here, because we have that connection with each other. I think something that I just want the purpose of that, but I think something that I experienced a lot when in my first year on board, so that was 2021, 2022, I learned a lot about like the boundaries between what it means to be a board and what it means to be friends and how to hold space for both without letting them affect one another. And that's, again, much easier said than done. It's a lot easier. It's very easy for our emotions to affect how we show up in the space. And that's very, very valid and makes a lot of sense. But I have so much trust in every person who ran for this board. I didn't get to see every platform or every Q&A or every speech yet, but I have so much faith that all of them feel this love and this intention and this calling to serve this board and be here in this board that goes beyond board. That they ran for this knowing that even if by some chance they don't get the position, that they will continue to show up in this space. And I think that's why a lot of us run for this board, because we do love it here and we will continue to love it here. And there are so many ways to serve Kasamahan in the ways that we seek to that go beyond board. And so, well, I guess I can't speak behalf of everybody when I say that. But my hope is that, again, like I mentioned earlier, that all of us can stay grounded in our intention when it comes to why we ran, and regardless of the consequences, regardless of the results, again, that we can go back to that foundation. But I think it's a hard question to answer. In terms of like maintaining the boundaries, I think something just in general that we something that I think board has really tried to be mindful of, and the time that I've experienced on it is just when to have your board hat on and when to not, and to not let board conversations and conflicts underlie your conversations with other people, because it is a board thing. And the truth is that although board is meant to be a space for connection and a space for teamwork, it is a board, it is a professional team. And I think it's important that we encourage everyone to maintain that level of professionalism while still balancing that community with it. And to know that, you know, what's the question, like, if not everybody, like, and then I'm like, is elected?
Yeah, so you kind of started answering it. How do you establish that professional boundary if multiple people that are in the same fan line end up on next year's board, including for yourself, as people in your family are also ready to be on next year's executive board?
Okay, yeah. So, kind of like where I was starting to go, I think. It's important to know when your board hat is on and when it's off. That it is a professional working relationship on eBoard, as much as, again, as it is still a place for connection, as much as we are all friends with each other, as much as we all love each other, it is a professional setting. And I think it's very important that we uphold that level and that standard of professionalism within each other, while still balancing with compassion and with love and with unity. And especially to not let that form any bias in the ways that we lead, which I think those relationships that we have with each other, especially when it comes to landlines or close friends, can often bleed into our decisions and our opinions and our thoughts, which again is to be expected and is valid, but to be very self-aware and mindful of those things when they do come up, and to know how to address them in the event that they maybe affect the way that you're interacting with yourself or with your board or with membership or with those around you.
Can you hear me? Sorry. What is the greatest lesson that Kasamaran has taught you so far in the past 3 years? And what lesson or legacy do you want to instill or leave during your final year here within this space?
I touched briefly on intention as a very big pillar of what I've learned and how I've grown in the past few years. But for lack of a better way to phrase it, and I risk of sounding very cheesy, I think that the biggest thing I've learned, and I said this verbatim to someone yesterday, was that love is the answer, everybody. Truly. And I mean that with so much passion and with so much truth. I am here because I love all of you. I advocate for other people because I love all of them. I want us to have a good experience because I love this space. I want us to honor the culture because I love the culture. And I think to really tap into that and hold that as your intention moving forward is so important, and it is what you see here. And I think that's what alumni and people before me have helped me to understand in myself, again, that my heart is not a flaw, that the fact that I love so hard is not something to be ashamed of, but it's something that empowers me, and something that I can use to serve this space and to help grow this space and to help each of you grow. Because I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but the biggest legacy I hope to leave is all of you, that you feel confident in yourself, that you feel strong in yourself, that you feel comfortable and empowered to be who you are and do what you want to do and continue growing this space in all the ways that you see fit. In the same ways that the alumni before me, the people that I've served on board with, have done for me, because they've planted that seed in me, and they are the reason, or part of the reason, why I am here today. My biggest hope is that, that you are all the legacy I leave behind as people who can discover their why and their love and their passion and let that guide them in this space or in the greater USF community or in whatever else they choose to pursue. That really is the biggest hope that I have for this work. That yes, as a collective we can come together and we can stand in unity and we can understand what it really means to stand in unity, but that as individuals we all feel that strength and that empowerment to reach all the streets, which we often talk about.